realize that all the glitz and the glamour and the outside world is not where your happiness is found. Now, everyone on this group is going to be like, yes. Some people reading the book, it might well be a bit of a, okay, is that really where I am? And my feeling is that that is the first step you have to take in order to consider yourself on a spiritual journey. If you're still focused on the external world to gain your happiness, then you are not, in my definition, on a spiritual journey. Because a spiritual journey, by its very definition, is an inward looking process where you are sure that the answers lie within you, not out there. And my feeling is that there is a ping pong kind of thing that happens. So the little analogy that I use that amuses me, but actually is really quite accurate, is this idea of, okay, let's say we have a fever and I go to my doctor. The doctor's the expert. So I go to the doctor and the doctor says, get a thermometer and check the temperature of your house. And I'm like, okay. So I go home and I check the temperature of my house, and then the doctor says, adjust it to the right temperature. So then I play around with the temperature, make it a bit hotter, fever's still there, make it a bit colder, fever's still there. And I'm playing around with it and I'm playing around with it. And the analogy is really accurate, right? It's like when we're unhappy, we go to an expert and the expert says, okay, change your job, or, find your life partner, or, you're not visioning, your visioning board isn't good, or you're not doing law of attraction properly, or, we go out and we look at the outside world as a way of adjusting our inner happipiness. And it literally is exactly the same as going into our house and adjusting the temperature so that the fever goes away. So the inward journey is to just go, hang on a minute, it's got nothing to do with the house. It's got nothing to do with my external environment. Actually, my inner world is the only one that's important. So step one of the Reiki journey is the self-treatment, right? We have the self-treatment, and through that self-treatment, we come inwards. First step. But within that is also what we're doing with our attention. So not only are we coming inwards, but where is our attention as we're doing that? And again, for most people, and this includes me, I was doing this for years. I would do my self-treatment and I would just kind of bliss out, and you're just kind of like there and you're like, this is so nice. And then you start daydreaming or listening to the music or falling asleep, right? All of these things is not mindful. So there is also a process whereby when you're doing your self-treatment, where is your focus? Where is your actual attention? Are you really doing the self-treatment as a meditation? And what I mean by meditation is as an inward-looking process to find your true nature, to find your true self. And I think a lot of Reiki practitioners are not doing that. And that to me is a really, really big shift in the way that we can portray Reiki, or in the way that we can maybe guide some of our students who are kind of getting stuck. This idea of you're doing your treatment, and then you hit this plateau. And lots of us do. I mean, I did too. It's kind of like you hit this plateau and you're like, yeah, it's nice, but not much going on, because all of the initial release and detox and all that stuff that was easy to get rid of has now gone. And now we're at the point where we really need to look, like we have to dive in and go, okay, what's the belief structure? What's all this kind of shell that I've got? People talk about the onion layers, whatever you want to call it. It's kind of like all of these kind of conditions and structures that hold me in place. It doesn't matter how much Reiki I'm putting in, it's not going to shift if I don't take a very clear look at what those belief structures and conditions are. So in this step, it's not only finding the time to do your practice, so that you can stop and actually start to look inwards rather than outwards. But it's also the directionality of the attention. Like, what are you actually spending your time with? Are you daydreaming? Or are you passing out? Or are you listening to the music? Or, you know, some of us sitting watching TV, right? It's kind of like that kind of idea of, oh, I'm just going to watch TV or whatever, and I'm going to do my practice because I've done my minutes. As long as I've done my hour, it doesn't matter what I'm doing with my mind. And what my suggestion is if you really want to take this as a serious spiritual practice, then what you do with your mind is critical. It's extremely important. And that's really the focus for this week, is for you to check in. Now, some of you may be able to tick that box and go, absolutely, I'm consciously doing that. I've been bringing in my meditation practice for years and I'm doing it all. In which case, brilliant. And that this week is just a reminder to do that. But I think for many of us, if we're really honest, it's not that easy. I mean, what I find with myself is, even though I've just written this book, is that when I'm doing it, sometimes I'm really good. Like, I'm all in it and I'm watching my breath and my hands are merging with my body and I'm like, ooh, and all oneness, and it's fabulous. And other times my mind's like, I'm just like, oh my God. But even that is a really powerful learning, right? Even that, it's like I'm lying there and my mind is on and on and on and doing its thing. There is a learning within that of, can I be okay with that? And then there's a whole other bunch of learning that comes up from that as well. Like all the underlying assumptions, or what I call the tyrannical ego. It's like all the different areas of the ego you start to get used to. And for me personally, it's like I'm sitting there, my mind's like, and immediately, I shouldn't be doing this. I should be better. You know, I've been doing this 20 years. Why can't I do this like that? And why is my mind so busy? And blah, 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 blah. And it's this other part of my personality that I start to see very clearly, which is a really nasty part. You know, it's like the tyrannical bitch, basically. It's just sitting there going, but seeing that is a really important learning as well, right? To see that unkind part of ourselves, or the part of ourselves that really resists what we don't think should be happening. So the aim of our self-treatment is not to get to a particular state. It's not to get to that state of oneness and bliss and wonderfulness. I mean, if you get there, brilliant, that's great. But if you don't get there, it's equally brilliant, because it's showing you another aspect of self. So the whole point of self-treatment is not an end goal. It's not to get to a feeling of oneness, or not to get to the feeling of spaciousness or whatever, or peace. The whole point of self-treatment is simply to see and observe what's happening in that moment, in that very moment. And sometimes it will be lovely, and sometimes it will be frustrating as heck. But in that frustration, can you be okay? And this is really important, because it's like, if you can really be okay and welcome every and any state of being in your self-practice, then you can do the same outside as well.